Naomi, great to see you as always, and thank you for making a bit of time to come along and tell us about what you're doing. I want to start with something that is, I think a lot of people would find a bit odd. You were telling me that when you first started out, you absolutely hate presenting to people and hate talking to people, but you run a business that's about training people to sell and communicate better. I mean, just tell us how you went from hating that to running a very successful business in that space. I mean, tell us about that.
So basically, I've been an entrepreneur for over a decade now.
Mhm.
And when I started with my last venture, something very strange happened. I came from a very busy working space environment, right? Where there was like lots of emails, lots of phone calls, lots of things to do. And then suddenly when I launched my last venture, something very strange happened. It was just, nothing to do, like no urgent tasks, no emails, no phone calls. It was just pure silence. And so then I realized I need a salesperson, right? And I started to interview all of these like super friendly salespeople. And while they were very good at selling, at making the person, at understanding the other person's needs and so on, none of them could really speak in a proficient way about my product. And I knew that if they were not able to speak about online marketing, the product I was looking to sell, I could not send them to my clients because they would just not be taken seriously.
Yep.
And it's precisely from this challenge that Inside Sphere was born. This challenge to train salespeople on product and also on communication in general. And so I launched the product, and then I realized, oh, okay, I actually need to do the first sales myself. I cannot delegate the sales as a founder, right? It's very important to get the first clients myself. And then I realized, well, in the past, I had always neglected this fear of presenting, right? I was always very, very scared. I was very terrified of presentation skills. I must admit, I kept signing up always for all kinds of opportunities to do public speaking. But weeks before that, I would just dread the moment. I would not be able to sleep, but I just kept signing up for different opportunities. And I would just get up on stage, and then I would be like getting on stage and just thinking, how quickly can I leave the stage again? What do I need to do to get off stage, right? And so what I did is I developed a technology that enabled me to get better presentation skills, right? What we did is we worked with a TEDx speaker coach that basically inputted the whole methodology, the whole TEDx methodology. And the theory behind presentation skills is actually anybody can be good at presenting. You just need to rehearse and get feedback. And if you are consistent, anybody can master presentation skills. And that's what we do with the technology, right?
And let me ask you about the technology, seeing as you've mentioned it. I mean, it strikes me that it's very easy to say you can get better at presentation skills, but it's a bit more complicated when you get into the detail of it, isn't it? I mean, what were the big technical challenges that you needed to overcome to make that work for people? Um, because it's much easier to do if it's two people in a room. Working with a piece of technology in that sense is perhaps a bit more complex. So tell us about that.
So basically, what we needed to do is basically we needed to get our TEDx speaker coach to think in terms of documenting all of his knowledge, right? Because I
Okay.
say, what's the most important skill, right? What is the first thing that you correct from a beginner? Because you don't correct the same from a beginner that from an advanced person, right? You would not tell a beginner you didn't use storytelling because they would be overwhelmed. So it was like, okay, what skills do you look at? What's the priority of those skills? And what's the weight? We need to give different weights to the different skills, right? So we come with an accurate score, right? That is one challenge. And then based on him, he sat down and tried to think, okay, how do I structure this? How do I document all my knowledge? Because that's what the AI needs. The AI needs documentation, right? And then based on that documentation, we basically develop the technology. And then there's a lot of testing where we see, okay, with this method, there are some cases that we didn't think of. What if the user does this or that, right? And then we were fine tuning, doing a lot of testing and fine tuning to come up with a situation situation where if somebody is a good speaker, they get a good score and they get accurate feedback. And if they are a bad speaker, they get a poor score with the accurate and most important skills to improve.
Okay. And let me ask you about that one specific issue. I mean, you work in multiple jurisdictions, don't you? I mean, selling, if you like, is probably different in India to the way you would sell if you were approaching a company in, I don't know, LA or something. I mean,
Yes.
I totally get what you're saying about the technology, that the AI needs to have something to it. How do you handle the kind of cultural nuances around
Yes.
that?
So our technology is currently very much focused around Western countries, right? So US, Canada, and Europe, right? And we currently don't cater to Asia because if we did Asia, we would need, for example, Japan is the extreme example, right? You cannot be as, imagine giving an evaluation to a Japanese person and an American
Yeah,
person,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
We
Okay.
cannot use the same parameters, right? So we're currently very much focused around Western, right? Western culture, yeah. But the technology, if we were to adjust the parameters, we could perfectly cater to Japan or to India or any other market. We would need to tweak it though. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I understand that now. Let me ask you about being the CEO. I mean, one of the things that, I mean, the job of the CEO is to get the company going in the right direction. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's a bit more detailed than that, but
Yes.
you've got to get it going towards the right things, haven't you? I mean, how do you work out, how do you kind of cut through all the noise of all the stuff that you could be doing? That if you're somebody like me that is very distracting, how do you cut through all that and say, okay, well, we're going to go there and we're going to focus on these things? I mean, what's your take on that process?
Yeah, so I'm actually quite pretty strict on that, right? Because I'm aware that the most important thing is to have clarity, to cultivate clarity. This is very important, right? I mean, you have a lot of founders that say, I work 24/7, I've not had a holiday for 3 years. And that, for me, I also work, there are many weeks when I work 6 to 7 days a week, but I always make sure that I have my time off, right? Because only with this time off, I can cultivate the clarity that I need. Otherwise, I'm just running around doing things and replying to my emails as they come in, regardless of priority, right? So it's about giving clarity. It's about then communicating this clarity, communicating this direction to the team and saying, we're going to focus on this. And we are not going to focus on that for now. We are not going to do any effort on that space. Or if we do, it's going to be like a priority set, right? So this clarity is very important. One of the challenges of being a CEO, and especially of being a founder, is this loneliness, right? So this is really one of the negative aspects. I don't know if you have heard other founders say that, right? So
Yeah.
it's like I'm always striving to have time to myself so that I can have clarity. But this loneliness is just always there, right? It just keeps appearing, right? So I always need to make sure that I counter it, right? One of the great things of being a founder is the amount of learning and the fast pace of the learning, right? I've learned more in the last 2 years than in my first job when I started in my career, right? And this is, of course, very, very motivating, very energizing.
Exciting, isn't it?
It's exciting. Yes, yes. I get to meet a lot of people. I get to do a lot of networking. This is also one important task as a CEO. And these people give me a lot of energy as well.
Sure.
So,
And let me just pick up
it's
that.
important.
Let me just
Yeah.
pick up that point. I mean, I can see. I mean, from when we've spoken, I mean, I can see that you've got bags of energy, which is a great thing. I mean, when I talk to a lot of CEOs, they say, being a CEO, building a business, it's a bit like riding a roller coaster. You have good days and you have days that aren't so good. I mean, what is it about this particular proposition, about what you're doing? What is it that motivates you, if you like, to get up every day and ride that roller coaster? I mean, what is that? What is your motivation for this?
Vision, it's the vision, it's the opportunity I've been given to create something so new, to create something that is really going to impact our everyday life, right? What we're going to do in the end is we're going to democratize access to a private teacher, right? We're going to, with AI in learning, what you can do is you can, things that, trainings that were like very much reserved to executives are going to be affordable to anybody, regardless of geography, of resources, right? And it's this vision that keeps me going to really, we are going to be able to make a big impact in the world, right? That's one thing. And the other thing is the building. I'm a builder, right? So I really like the idea of building this product, of talking to the market, getting feedback, going back to the developer team and discussing how do we translate what are the feedback from the market into a product.
Yeah. Well, let me just pick up something you said there about the the kind of how you feel about building something, right? I mean, I totally understand that. One of the things that's interesting though is that sometimes you run up against roadblocks, don't you? You run up against red lights, things that kind of get in your way. You know where you want to go, but there's this thing. I mean, what's your take on how do you respond to those red lights? I mean, sometimes we have periods when we get lots of green lights and it's go, 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 and it's all great. And every now and again, there's a red light that kind of knocks you for six. I mean, what's your take on? I mean, how do you respond to that?
Very good question. So this is again, it's a bit like the clarity, right? It's about making sure that my world is bombarded by emails, by questions, by things I have to do, but I always need to make sure I make enough free time to cultivate this clarity, right? And these blockages are in a way also a challenge, right? They come, they're going to be there, they're part of my reality, right? But I need to learn to say, okay, they are here. What am I going to do about it? And then move on, learn from this, move on, continue, find new opportunities, right? So it's really about learning that they are like stones in my path, right? But stones in the path are part of the path, and I'm going to learn a lot by overcoming those challenges, and just learn and move on.
I mean,
And
I
in the
often
end,
think that those problems actually help you learn and develop, don't they? Because they force you to really think quite deeply about what you're doing, and I think they're actually helpful often.
they
I
are,
mean,
they
frustrating
are,
but
yeah.
helpful.
They're
And
very
let me,
helpful. Yeah. May I add one
yeah,
thing, right?
go
I
on.
think it's very important also when you go get into this frame of mind, right? One problem. If you let you down, if you let you sink, right?
Yeah,
Then you will get the next one and the next one, right? And you'll just end up in like a cycle, a vicious cycle, and and everything is negativity. So that's important. That's why it's important that as soon as the first one comes, that you really take the time, the energy to overcome it, see beyond it, and move on to the next, so that the next information, the next input that comes is not a negative one, but a positive one.
sure, sure. And let me ask you. I mean, you've been a CEO for a little while now. I mean, is there anything that has really surprised you about the job?
Surprised me? No, I wouldn't say so. I mean, I've just grown with it. Like I said, there's this challenge of loneliness, but there's this huge opportunity of learning, right? I learn so much. I get up on Monday morning thinking, okay, I'm going to learn so much that just drives me out of bed, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, I get that. I was just curious. Let's talk about the thing that we started with, which is about kind of communications. I
Mhm.
mean, how individuals communicate is
Yeah.
obviously different to the way that organizations need to communicate. I mean, what's your take on, the kind of the role of the CEO in communicating about what the business does? I mean, give us your take on that. I mean, my guess is you've got very well developed thinking about that.
How the business how we communicate about the business. So, I mean, our messaging, right? Our messaging is really built based on all the industry feedback that we get, right? So we are adjusting our message on an ongoing basis, right? I have a background in marketing, but still I'm aware that I'm not going to be the one defining a message. My team is not going to be the ones defining the message. It's about we talk to the market and they see challenges here, challenges there. We see some message resonates better than another, and we just keep fine tuning the message. If this is also very much the reality of a startup. If you look at our marketing material 6 months ago, 3 months ago, it's very different to what it is now and what it will be in the future.
I mean, let me just ask you about then. So, I mean, just at a very high level, in what way has it changed, perhaps? I mean, give us an example of that.
Yes. So, for example, it has changed, for example, in the way that the product has also changed, right?
Right, right.
Because originally we were doing training with virtual reality, right?
Yeah,
And we saw that this is very innovative. It's really solves a problem because training with virtual reality has huge potential. There's a lot of research
yeah,
that
yeah,
shows the
yeah, yeah.
advantages, but companies are not there yet, right? They are not able to buy VR headsets. It's a challenge for them, right? They are not part of the inventory, the technological inventory. So what do they do with it? How do they administer them and so on? And so based on that, we moved away from virtual reality. Before, virtual reality was everywhere in our communication, and now it's not anymore.
Okay. Okay. And that's, I suppose, to neutralize people's anxiety about having to use VR, is it? Is that what you're trying to do?
Yes, with VR you have two advantages. One is all the fears, right? You can confront the fears without really having to go into the real situation, right? That's one very strong use case of virtual reality. And the other is the immersion. Virtual reality is so immersive, right? That you can suddenly be in the real situation. And this has a very positive effect in learning.
Yeah.
The possibility of processing new information is much more efficient in an immersive world than it is in a traditional classroom environment.
Sure. And that's very powerful. It's very powerful for people, isn't it? Let me
Yes.
ask you about the kind of people stuff. Um, Now, I know you don't have a huge team yet, but what are your thoughts on getting the right people on the bus? I mean, to go anywhere, you've got to build an organization. I mean, whether it's 5 people or 5,000 people, isn't it? I mean, what are your thoughts about getting the right people on the bus with you?
Yes. Yeah, it's very important that the people have a startup experience, or if they are beginners, that they clearly show interest in working for a startup. And a startup is a very cool buzzword, but you have to be very careful, right? Because a startup it's a very special environment. So that it's very important to really recognize, have they startup experience? Do they want to stay on the startup boat? And if they haven't jumped in yet, do they have the right expectations about working for a startup? Because working for a startup means that you need to be very open to innovation, very flexible, right? We get some inputs. We get, as soon as we get enough information from clients, we look at, okay, let's change. We decide to change today. We implement the changes tomorrow, and then if in 10 days later we see that that was not the right decision, we change again, right? So these are people that need to be very open to this flexibility all the time, to looking for opportunities. That's very important. Also, what's very important for me when I hire somebody is that they are open to technology, that they are open to innovation.
And what's your so once you've got the right people on the bus? I mean, people that are flexible, people that are open to innovation using technology, and all you once you've got the right people on, I mean, how do you then go about creating an environment in which they can perform effectively? Because as you said, it's a very fast-moving world, isn't it?
Yes, yes. So this is about keeping close communication with them, right? We're a small team, which enables us to communicate much more easily and to really always check, okay, what can we do better? What can we improve? What processes do we need to think about that we haven't thought about, right? Every new team member brings new ideas of tools, of things that we can do better. So it's really about communicating with them and seeing, because we all work in very different areas, right? A developer is doing something very different to a UI designer or somebody who is doing sales support, right? And so they all, from their different perspectives, bring a lot of valuable possibilities for improvement.
Yeah, yeah. And let me ask you about, I mean, the nature of your business is that it's a very, I mean, AI is a fabulous technology, but it's also, I mean, there's so much going on in that world at the moment. So it's a hugely competitive place, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I mean, what is it? What would you say are the things that are special about your business that give it a competitive edge? I mean, do you have a sense of that?
Yes. So we have so on one hand we have a bit the focus of the client, right? We develop those things that the client wants, right? On the other hand, we develop innovation, right? Innovation with our avatars, things that have not been done yet, right? And so that's a bit the two things. And the other is the focus, right? The focus on industries so that we can better cater for our clients.
Okay, so what you're really saying is it's about trying to get as close to the customer as you can.
Yeah, that's the key. Yes, yes. There's a lot of competition out there, but in the end, I'm not serving the competition, I'm serving a client.
Yeah. Okay. And in terms of this kind of process of going into new markets, I mean, what would you say are the big lessons you've learnt about that?
Yeah, so we basically we're based with a Swiss incorporated company, right? Which means we already come from a very Switzerland is very has creates a very international
Yeah, international flavour.
company
Yeah.
setup, right? We have three official languages, right? German, French, and Italian. There's a lot of English going on here. And you see already by working with the different regions, you have like three different countries
Yeah.
plus English, a fourth country, right? So we are very used to this kind of international situation. Our clients expect us to deliver the service in minimum two languages, if not three, right? So that's an ideal ground then to don't go and expand.
Okay. And did you have I mean, that you mentioned there's four languages there. I mean, did you have a sense of, let me ask you, what sort of criteria did you use to identify where to go, which markets to focus on? I mean, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, I would say our focus is US, Canada, Europe in general, like our final goal, right? We're very much focused now on working with our network, right? Which is Switzerland. We also have UK clients, Germany, right? But it's very much focused on our network. And the idea is then to expand within Europe as a first step. US comes second because US requires some adaptation. It is a different kind of market.
Yeah, sure. And do you see the risks as being very different? I mean, is Europe, would you say, less risky than the US? I know it's different, but what would you say about the levels of risk involved?
Well, the US is a huge market. It has a lot of competition.
Mm,
But the good thing is that the clients are very honest. So it's a great place for feedback, right? It's a great place for developing your product and getting feedback. They're a bit more advanced in AI, about 6 months further ahead than we are.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Very exciting too, I would have thought. Um, Let me ask you, you mentioned customers. I mean, let me ask you about customers. I mean, in your world, what does a good customer look like?
A good customer, right? So a good customer provides is very clear about what they want, right? They need to know it themselves. What do I want? How do I best serve my team? They need to be open to communicate it, right? They need to be open to say to us, but these things of your product we don't really like. Can you change them? Because we as a startup, we offer this flexibility that bigger companies, bigger competitors cannot offer, which is we are able
Okay.
to personalize a lot more, right? And so for us, it's important a client that knows what they need, how do they deliver how do they best fit the needs of their employees, and that they can communicate with us openly and also with critique. Critique is crucial for a startup for us. For us, it's crucial, right? Yes.
Yeah. Let me ask you about those customers. I mean, you mentioned that your sort of strategic positioning is about being more flexible and more agile than bigger competitors. I mean, I mean, given that that's the case, given that moving quickly is very important to you, how do you go about building relationships with customers at speed? Because if you're saying we do it faster than the big guys, and we're more flexible than the big guys, that implies that you've got to do these things more quickly. I mean, how do you deal with that? Because it's not easy building relationships quickly, is it?
Easy to have to build a relationship quickly because, especially because we work with a lot of corporates, right?
Mm.
And so corporates have slower paces, right? So you meet somebody, then you have a follow-up meeting 1 month, and then some people in the team are on holiday, and then they postpone to a second month. So this is a challenge, right? Our pace is like speed of light for them, right?
Mm.
Yes,
And
but
how
still,
do
this
you, I
is
mean,
valuable.
and how do you, I mean, given that your clients are quite big and go slowly, but you want to go fast, I mean, how do you manage that tension?
Well, we need to work with enough leads in the pipeline, right? So that the ones that start now will close in 3 to 6 months, right? And we need to have enough
Yeah.
so that we are always busy and that there are always deals closing from things that started much earlier.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I mean, what you're saying is, if you want to be busy in 6 months' time, you need to be starting on it now, don't you? Yeah, I get
Yes,
that.
yes.
Um, Let me ask you about the way the business has changed. I mean, you've been at it a little while now, and you've gone into different markets. I mean, has the business evolved as a result of being in different jurisdictions?
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that the geography leads to product changes. I would rather say the type of client requires different needs. So, for
Right.
example, we have training companies, right? They have different needs than when we sell directly to the training manager or the L&D department of a company, right? They
Okay.
have different needs. There's different priorities. There's different things that come into play, right? Yes. We also have a third use case of our solution is basically using our avatars to create an awareness campaign, right? So when, for example, say we're working with a wealth management company, and what they do is they use it for marketing. So they use us in the ads. They say, assess your financial literacy with our avatar, right? And this, of course, again has different needs, right, than the pure practice that a training company needs or the pure practice that an L&D needs for the department.
Okay.
So I would say it's not so much about geography at the moment, it's more about the use case and the type of
Yeah.
business.
It's more about the needs of the specific clients, isn't it? Really, I get that. Let me ask you about what you've learned from the experience. I mean, you've been at this a little while now. I mean, if you were to go back to day one, if you could go
Mhm.
right back to the beginning, I mean, what would you do differently this time round?
I would talk more to the market from an early stage. I would get develop a team in house more quickly.
Mhm.
Yes, these are the two things that I would
And
do
why
initially.
why would you do those things differently? I mean, what's important about those things?
Because as a founder, right? As a founder, you start solving a problem, right? You start solving a problem that you have yourself, right? But you build a Rolls Royce. You get very much into this in the startup world. It's all very much about innovation, right? But very soon you get lost in this kind of academic innovation, which is very far from the business reality that is going to generate your revenue, right? And so you get stuck into this, like, let's innovate, let's do something really great, right? Let's really build a Rolls Royce. And then when you go to the market, they say, well, yeah, but I'm fine with a smart car, right?
Yeah, I don't need a Rolls
Because
Royce.
they don't, because they are not like in this, they're in a different world, right? You're offering them already something very new with the smart car. Yeah. But we think so much and we think about problems so much. And the startup world is really so much about innovation that we do so much that is far away from the market, right?
Mm.
It's, for example, what you see in grants, right? There are a lot of grants going to innovation, right? But when you look at the business sense that this innovation makes, right? Often there's things being developed that business-wise they will not really be viable.
Yeah, or not now anyway.
Not now, not now.
Yeah, sure. And the other point you made about bringing your team in-house. I mean, I've spoken to other CEOs that say, I don't bring anyone in-house. I'd much prefer to have people working remotely or contracts or whatever. I mean, what's the logic behind your point about bringing the developer team in-house sooner? Why did you say that?
Well, it's about, so it doesn't have to be the whole team in-house, but it's the core team, right? Have a core team in-house with who we engage in all conversations like the moment the conversations happen, right? So I have several calls as a CEO, and at the end of the day I can discuss with my developer, hey, they said this, they said that, they say that, and so that they are aware of the context for which they are developing a product, right? Because it's very easy to get lost into, we need a better database, right? But a client is never going to thank us for a better database, right? In general terms. And so with you have the developer brings another perspective to the product, right? Where you say, when the client needs this, and they bring with their own perspective, they bring a lot of valuable ideas.
Sure, sure. And let me ask you, I mean, the business is successful. I mean, what would you attribute that success to so far?
I would say the success is we have a momentum with AI, right? So we have like the smartphone, the iPhone momentum that we had in 2010, where suddenly the iPhone 2 was launched, and the technology, the underlying technology was far enough that it made sense to have a smartphone with internet connection. There were enough content to be able to make this product usable, right? And with the AI, it's now with ChatGPT being accessible for everybody, everybody understands really the power of AI, right? If like, 2, 3 years ago, you talked about AI and people would be like, what's that? Why would I use AI? What's the difference between your solution that has AI and another one that doesn't? And so this momentum, while it brings a lot of competition, it makes people a lot more open to anything that is AI, right? There's a lot of hunger, of thirst for content and for information about what we do in AI, because they see that AI is going to change, our society in a big way, and people want to know, right? They are eager to find out more and more information about it.
Sure. And in terms of that willingness to kind of buy into the idea of AI, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's moved incredibly quickly, isn't it? I mean, it's only a couple of years now. Now
Yeah.
everyone's totally familiar with it,
Yeah.
even though we're still just at the beginning of the journey, I think.
Yes, very much at the beginning.
I mean, has that affected the way you compete? I mean, if you go back a couple of years, AI was a very new thing. Now it's everywhere. I mean, so it doesn't, because AI is everywhere, it doesn't necessarily give you the same kind of competitive edge. I mean, how does it help you or not help you compete? I mean, how do you manage that issue?
I think it certainly helps me because it's like I said, it's really, you talk to people about AI and they understand what you're talking about. There's a lot of like, it's a trend and everybody's very open and
Yeah,
interested about the AI. And so that's for me, it's clear there's a lot of competition, there's a lot of players, there's a lot of change, right? But
no,
yeah, but the momentum.
what I was trying to get at was now that everybody's got AI, how do you stand out from the crowd? I mean, if you go back a few years and said, well, we've got AI, well, you're different from everybody else, but you're not different now because you're the same, aren't you? I mean, so my point was, how do you stand out? How do you make your offer distinctive? Because you can't just say we've got AI, that makes us different, because it doesn't now, does it?
Yeah. Mhm. Yes. So we differentiate our product, right, from our product in that we have the two pillars, right? We have on one hand the product information, which is our solution is highly customized, right? We spend a lot of resources on creating sales simulations based on the product knowledge of the client, right? On this scenario that they want to build. This customization is a very, very important pillar for us. Then we have with the whole presentation skills, we bring a whole wealth of analysis, right?
Okay.
That is important for a salesperson, right? It's important the salesperson communicates proficiently as well, otherwise they are not taken seriously, right? We have this flexibility, for example, to go into like special market needs, right? Like specific things that are important for Switzerland, for example, that will not be so important for other markets. Yes, and we are basically really looking at from the perspective of learning experience design, right? To see how can we further improve the product there.
So what you're really saying is, just so I've understood this correctly, what you're saying is, I want to make my customers' experience a really good experience, and that will
Yes,
make
that's
money.
our focus.
Is
Yes,
that what
yeah.
you're saying? Yeah, yeah. And let me ask you about one of the byproducts of all of this. Well, it may not be a byproduct. I'm assuming that. I mean, one of the outputs of what you're doing is presumably you're creating huge amounts of data. I
Yes.
mean, how is that going to play into your kind of competitive positioning? I mean, what are you going to do with all that data other than, I mean, you've just talked about using that data to make the customer's experience better. Are there other ways that you can deploy that data, perhaps?
Yes. So currently, because we have very much a focus on like more like highly regulated industries like insurance and finance,
Yeah.
right? The data is something that we are very careful with, right? So we currently, first of all, the data that we capture is not used to train the large language models.
Right.
Right? So our client data does not go into the general universe of large language model training
You have
data.
unique data.
We have unique data, and this unique data stays within that client, right? So there's like one database per client, right? So that we don't want to use because, we have a focus on being secure, right? And compliant. So we will not use one set of client data to improve the other client data. But we will use one's client data to fine tune our solution for that client, right? That we do
Okay.
so that the system gets better and better over time based on their own data.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I think that's really interesting about AI is that it almost creates self-improving products because you get the more data you get,
Yeah.
the better you can do what you do. So the more able you are to innovate and to offer things that really matter to customers, make customers' lives better. And so I mean, it's quite an interesting feature. It's that the product isn't static, is it? It's a
No,
developing product.
exactly. So we offer, for example, progression logic, right? Where with the AI, we're able to see, okay, this person was rather weak in this space and the other person in another space, right? So then we propose there's a progression logic that says, okay, those that are weak in here, we propose this kind of exercises, and those that are weak in another area, I proposed another kind of learning process or learning path.
Yeah, yeah. And let me ask you about the flip side to success. I mean, it's a great proposition. I mean, I've done a lot of work in the sales world, and I totally get where you're coming from and how useful the proposition is. Tell us about some of the mistakes that you've made on the journey. I mean, most entrepreneurs I talk to will tell you that, they make mistakes all the time, and what matters is how quickly you learn from them. Really, I think.
Yes.
Tell me about one or two things that have gone wrong that have really hurt you or upset you, and what have you managed? What did you learn from those experiences?
I would say maybe a mistake was to spend too much time at the beginning with virtual reality because we were
Right.
convinced that that's the thing, right? And the market was not quite buying it, right? Because, like I said, innovation is here, but the business, they are already happy with solving the problem somehow, right? They don't have to solve the problem with a Rolls Royce, right? So I would say that's something I wish we had moved away from virtual reality earlier on.
Okay.
I
And
still see for our product vision, virtual reality has a lot of potential in the future because virtual reality and training is going to be a fantastic combination, but not now.
yeah. Any other mistakes that you can think of?
Well, I think, for example, with a team, right? I think we are the more and more that we develop, the more we see this need for either go for people who have startup experience, right? Or people, if they are younger, they don't have enough experience to see that they really have the willingness, right? It's really, yeah, I would say on the team side, it's really about first this startup mindset, and then also do this person, we are innovating, right? So there's nothing written about what we're going to do next, right? So if you need help, if you need support, right, as a part of the team, you need to really just think and make decisions yourself and make mistakes yourself, right? So you need to be able to you need to work with people that are open to working in this kind of uncertain environment where they are discovering, they are breaking through, right? But it's really this uncertainty and this high complexity, right? They often run into complex situations, and they are people that they need to be wanting to go to work in a highly complex environment. That's also
So
important.
what you're saying is it's about finding the people with the right motivation that are prepared to work through those
Yeah.
sorts of issues, which is not
Yes,
easy, is
exactly.
it? It's not
That
easy.
will not give up, right?
Yeah, yeah. Let me ask you about you. I mean, has being the CEO, being on that journey, has that changed you, do you think, as a leader?
Yes, it has certainly changed me. It has strengthened my entrepreneurial drive, actually, right? I'm much more entrepreneurial now than when I started after my last venture, right? It's I have grown a lot. I have learned so much, right? I'm almost, I wouldn't say I'm a different person, but there's been like a big evolution, right? If I was to spend a day in the shoes of the person I was 2 years ago and doing what I was doing 2 years ago and what I'm doing now, it's really two different worlds.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, being a CEO, building a business is a real learning experience, isn't it? I mean, I don't think people
Yes,
appreciate if you haven't done it, people don't appreciate how much you learn. I don't think.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Let me ask you then, if you were to, I mean, what one piece of advice would you offer to a rookie CEO? So somebody that was like you a few years back that hadn't done it, but I mean, what would be the one most important piece of advice you'd offer to them?
So one of the big things that I changed, right, what I developed, what I grew, and what I really like got out of my comfort zone, right? And it's this getting out of the comfort zone,
Yeah.
right? I think it's probably that's what I would recommend. So get out of your comfort zone, because only there you are able to grow. And it's super uncomfortable. And maybe you have like a rookie CEO that is making nice revenue and doesn't see the need to get out of the comfort zone. But it's so motivating, the reward of what you achieve by getting out of your comfort zone, right? And one thing that I did that was like extremely like getting out of my comfort zone for me was networking, to really start being a proactive networker. I realized I lost a co-founder very early on before the product was even developed. And then I realized I need to start networking. I need to start getting people to give me ideas, to support me, and to give me energy, right? And then I was like, I came from, before my rookie CEO would go into a networking event, if at all, like once a month maximum. And then there I would talk to two people, and those two people would be the people that would be addressing me, that would come up to me and say hello, right? And there I had to make this big change, right? This big personal
And
development.
how did you, I mean, you talked about finding networks to support you. I mean, how did you do that? I mean, just tell, I mean, in a practical sense, how did you do that? I'm just thinking about what other CEOs might want to know about this.
Yes. So I started to work. I hired an office in the Blue Lion, which in Zurich it's like a well-known co-working space for startups, and they have a whole ecosystem supporting startups, right? And that was very important, to get to talk to other startups, and automatically you are part of this hub where you get a lot of information for events for startups, right? And so this event for startups were a first thing, right? Well, I just started to go to all kinds of events like startup associations. The female founders were also very good,
Right.
because the female founders bring the more relevancy you have to that network, the easier it is, right? Especially when you are getting started. So the female founder events were very valuable. And then all the general startup association events going on around Zurich, around Switzerland, the fairs as well. And then when I took it to a bigger stage, I went to other startup events like Slush, right? Nowadays, I host my own events, right? So that's the next level of networking. Yes, but I started very much with the startup events, right? So if it's somebody like a CEO that is in the startup space, that's what I would do. And if it's somebody that is not in the startup space, then I would look for networking events in that in their space, right? In their industry. What is important is that you go to events where there are a lot of people that don't just go and hang out with their colleagues, but there are enough people that go alone, especially in entrepreneurial spaces. You have that more, because then people are open to talking to new people. They don't stick just with their colleagues.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that thing about talking to new people, it's really important, isn't it?
Very
Let me ask you
important.
a couple of things just before we wind up. I mean, when you look ahead, I mean, you're in a very fast changing world. I mean, what do you expect the big challenges to be over the next few years? We've talked about what's happened over the last few years. I mean, how do you see the future? What would you say are the big challenges that you face going forward?
Yeah, so the big challenge we all face is, of course, AI brings a lot of opportunities, right? But it also brings a lot of change, right? For the employees themselves, right? There's going to be big changes. There's going to be a lot of need for upskilling and reskilling, right? So that we are, in the future, the workplace of the future still needs us, right? If you think about when the PC came out, right? The people that lost their jobs because of the PC, right? It's not that they lost their jobs; they still have the possibility to upskill and reskill, right? And that's something that is going to be very, very important, right? So, what does the workplace of the future look like with AI, right? Well, there's still going to be need for team leads. There's going to be still needs for strategic thinking, for creative thinking, right? But a lot of other more kind of like roles that can be automated with the AI will stop to exist, right? That's one thing to think about. The other thing is, how can you benefit from this opportunity, right? There's a lot of opportunity for automating with AI, with the use of AI agents, right? We can make our business much more efficient, actually.
Sure, sure.
So that's the two things.
And what specific opportunities are you looking forward to in your company? I mean, do you think have you got particular things on the horizon that you're excited about?
Well, one thing that we work with, that we want to do more of, is we work with AI agents, right? So the idea is, we basically automate a lot of business processes through AI agents, so that we need less resources to produce a much bigger output, right? That's one thing. The other thing is a bit like I mentioned, right? In which direction does our solution need to develop to be fit when this workplace changes, the AI workplace is really taking over, right? And where does our solution fit into that?
I mean, it's evolving really quickly, isn't it? So I think one of the challenges is how to work out how it fits in, isn't it? Because it seems to me to be changing every day.
It's changing every day. Yeah. So, I mean, if you're in the AI space, it's really about keeping up to date. What's happening here? What's happening there? What does it mean for me? How can I make the most of this opportunity? Right. It's really important to keep up to date.
Yeah. And a couple of final questions. I mean, how do you think others will see your legacy?
Mhm. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I like that. I think it's again about, I see that learning with AI will bring a lot of opportunities for democratizing access to knowledge, to education. And that's I see where I can play a big role, right? How to make, for example, somebody from a not so advantaged background have access to better communication skills, to better sales skills, to learn about super complex products, right? And that's what I see my legacy, to really democratize access to learning in areas that are currently very much reserved for executives.
Yeah, and I think that's a fabulous. I mean, that's a fabulous thing to be doing. You know, if you can open that world up to a more diverse range of people and a larger number of people. I mean, it seems to me that's a great thing to be doing. You know, I mean, I'm a fan of diversity. I think it's a good thing. So, you know, I really hope that that's a success for you, and that is the legacy that you leave behind. Um, in terms of just to wind things up, I mean, if people want to talk to you, how do they get in touch with you?
They can write to me, they can send me an email, right?
And
My email
just
address,
tell people what your email address is so that you can find it.
can I spell it out or?
Yeah, go on, just spell it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's my first name, Noemi, Noemi, at insightsphere.ch. So InsightSphere is INSIGHTSPHERE.ch. Sorry, .co. Sorry, madam. Yeah,
No, that's fine.
insightsphere.co. Yes, and they can also, of course, reach out to me on LinkedIn, right? If you look for Noemi Alvarez, you will also find me, and you can follow me, connect with me, send me a message. I'm always open for a chat, for new ideas, for new inspiration. I'm currently talking to a lot of people that bring really from all backgrounds, from all kind of perspectives of life. And I'm really, really enjoying all those very rich, inspiring
And that really
conversations.
comes across, you know, Amy. I mean, that openness that you've just talked about, and that really comes across. And I think it's a really, really good thing. Thank
Thank you,
you
Paul.
for taking a bit of time to come and have a chat with us. I mean, a great proposition. And like we just talked about, you know, if you can democratize, to use your words, some of those things that are a bit of a closed world, you know, if you can open that out to a more diverse range of people, I mean,
Yes.
that will be a really good thing. So, you know, good luck with that going forward. And thank you for taking a bit of time to tell us about what you're doing.
Thanks a lot for the invite, Paul. I enjoyed the conversation very much.
Cheers and see you soon. Bye bye.
Bye bye.